Hi everyone, welcome to Dyslexic Design Thinking, the bigger picture with amazing dyslexics. I'm your host, Gil Gershoni. In today's episode, you're going to hear from an actor and a social worker who are redefining what it means to be dyslexic. Enjoy.
Hi guys, how are you? So good to see you both.
How you doing?
Nice to see.
We're doing excellent. We're doing excellent. So, today our conversation is really about championing, and I wanted to start with you, Lloyd. Tell me a little bit about, what is dyslexia means to you, and how did you kind of champion that inner power?
To begin with, it meant a lot of internal struggling and suffering, really, because I wasn't able to do what I was really passionate about without struggling to learn the lines. Just that's the most basic thing about an actor is just know your lines, and if you don't know them, you can't act. So that's I really struggled with that. But on the other hand, actually, that did lend. Two things happened there because I wasn't so good at learning lines to begin with, because I didn't have a structure at that time to get over dyslexia. What it did lend itself to is becoming a very good improviser, just being able to do things off the top of my head, off the spot, and just like being able to sort of give and receive from whatever character you're sort of improvising with. But then when I discovered drawing pictures, which was the tipping edge, which allowed me then to learn my lines. And then obviously I was able to really start to enjoy the acting. That's when it all kind of changed for me. So dyslexia means to me it's like it was like an obstacle that I overcame, but through the obstacle became I guess a much kind of using the same kind of treatment for every obstacle in life now. Like, not that thing really affected me. And now anything else that comes up in life, I feel like I've got the tools to be able to move through it. And also, where your struggles are is sometimes you uncover that power behind it. So it was a good thing. And it's always hard when you're struggling to understand that actually it's good for you, because you're struggling. It doesn't feel good at the time, but we just don't have hindsight. So for me it's about overcoming and then using it and then embracing all that you are.
Yeah, beautiful. Obi, nice to see you. How are you? Can you hear me?
Obi.
Can you hear me, Obi?
Hi, I'm here. I can hear you.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. What does dyslexia mean to you? Let's see if our connectivity holds. What's dyslexia means to you, Obi?
Wow. For me, getting to understand or know about dyslexia was freedom for me. Like I did say on my page, I didn't know what it is. Growing up, it was looked at either you're stupid or you're backward or you don't know nothing. So back in the days, it was difficult to be in the classroom. And getting to know about dyslexia, like while I was in my social work, that was my second degree training, when my own supervisor identified it because she was dyslexic too.
Yeah.
So it was freedom. It was freedom to see such a high attainer. She was just not a social worker. She was also a nurse. She was a top matron before coming into social work. And she became a psychiatric nurse as well. And without her, I could have still been locked in that box, not knowing what it is.
Goodness.
Yeah.
And finding that out changed my whole career, my educational life and everything. I came from a middle student to a top student for the first time I had a 95% score.
Wow.
From meager 55%, 47, 60 most, to 95. And she said, do you realize that you are an A student and you've been deprived?
Wow.
Wow. It's
So
I love
that
what you say in the book.
basically was my freedom.
Yeah.
I've been locked up for years upon years upon years. No one knew about it. No one found out.
Yeah.
So that was
It's
the
so
first
common.
time I made 95%. Onwards, it became 90. The minimum I made after that was 85. So that proves, that goes on to prove the excitement of being loose and getting to understand dyslexia.
What was it that
and you
what
find
was
that
it that changed, Obi? What was it that changed for you? Was it the confidence? Did she give you strategies to help you? What was
yeah, it was massive. I looked back and I looked at my teachers back in those days. I looked at them, I said, they are really the ones that actually need help, because they couldn't see their student needed help.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't see me. I was invincible. But Christina saw me and brought me to the light. And it took out all those sadness, all that, you know, when you've been told you're not good enough, or you shouldn't bother with education because you can't write, you can't read, you can't produce, and someone just tells you, not really, you can, but you're just dyslexic.
Yeah, she was your liberator, as you said in our book, Obi. She liberated you. She was your mother liberator, I think you said.
Yep.
Yeah. And Lloyd, you had a sorry, I was going to say, Lloyd, you had a similar experience, didn't you, Lloyd, with someone who really was your champion at the time?
Right. She was my champion, and she's my champion. She's my hero. And like I said, I still give out a lot of shout outs to her, and I can't forget that. And likewise, you guys bringing it out to the world. You know, you're champions, you're heroes, to let people know that being dyslexic is actually a good thing. And it doesn't stop you from getting anywhere.
I love that. I love that. Lloyd, let's go to you. What was your, following up the question, what was who championed your sort of dyslexia earlier on, and how did you sort of find ways through some of the challenges? You talked about script and illustrating, but was there a person in your life that saw your magic and your talent that sort of championed you and your success?
There was one teacher I had called Martin Houghton, and he understood me before I understood who I was. So he understood that I struggled with scripts and stuff. So I remember that he what he would do was he would tell me, he'd tell me if we were doing a scene, he would go into the room, and the other actress would be waiting outside, and he'd say, do whatever you want in the room. And maybe just as one example, I absolutely destroyed it. I smashed the room up because, and then he brought the actress in whilst I was already pumped with this energy and this sort of inner destruction. And then I kind of understood, it's all about what's underneath the script anyway, what the person is actually going through, what they're feeling. And then I understood, okay, and then I tried to map the two, you know, like what is the internal story of the person and what is the person actually saying. And that was the one person that really championed me. But I've had so many lucky experiences along the way. I had a lovely guy called Tim Pickett-Smith, who was a brilliant actor who's not with us anymore, who really helped me with Shakespeare. And also Mark Rylance, who is the king of Shakespeare, really helped me with that as well. So I've been really lucky with the people I've worked with. And yeah, I think the way that I discovered the drawing, though, that was just I don't know what that was. That was just a moment of
genius.
Sorry?
A moment of genius.
Well, you know, I didn't think of that myself. You know, it's not as if I went, I'm going to draw pictures. I just started doing it, and then I realized, oh, I know the lines now. So I don't know, you want to call that spirit, presence, God, universe, whatever name you want for it, but it weren't something that I was actually consciously trying to come up with.
I think for a lot of people, though, it helps to get things in when they do things in their own handwriting, or it's like once you understand it, you are understanding the essence by doing the drawing. So then that's stuck for you. It's finding your own strategies and ways of learning, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I was very visual person, realizing I was a visual person and a person that uses a lot of feeling and emotion, and so those two coming together superseded the words, and the words were born out of the visual and the feeling, which is really what you want as an actor anyway. But yeah, it was a nice way to find a way around it. But funny enough, now I draw less because my memory is very good now. It's changed. It's fascinating. Something's changed in my brain. So I draw like big monologues. But if it's just like conversational, my brain's pick it up much quicker now.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Is that confidence, do you think? Is that just about confidence?
Yeah, I think it's about confidence, and I think it's about also your chemistry changes, you know, because if you're worrying about something all the time and you're in like a fear-based survival of trying to learn something, then you know that's the chemistry that's going on in your brain, and then suddenly when you get much better at it, you're more confident with it, and then you're not worried. Basically, you're not worried about not learning your lines anymore. That's gone to the side. That's left you now. So yeah.
I can relate to that. I can relate to, you know, we need to overcome certain situations, and we create these habits, and then all of a sudden we have these massive skills, right? Because we overdevelop other senses to compensate for not being able to read, or, you know. And I can relate. I know, Obi, you were shaking your head. My memory, I think it's so much stronger because I had to remember where did they see that word so I can go and copy it. And eventually that developed into this sort of photographic memory, and I just remember conversation, notes, meeting. I don't have to write it down. For some reason, I just remember that detail. But I think to your point, Lloyd, I don't know that I was born with that. I think I just overcompensated, and then it became a hyperability, right? So, Obi, you're saying you're agreeing with that. How does that manifest in your experience, Obi?
Right, I could relate with that because that was what I was doing. I kind of my photographic memory became my source of power at the time, and I tried to memorize things.
Right,
that was the only way I can compensate for my inabilities at the time, and I was living with that. So I could relate with that, and also what Lloyd was saying earlier. It's when you don't know and when you find out what it is, it gives you that confidence, that tool. And I would say it makes me a better social worker. Even when I'm dealing with anyone and even colleagues, I kind of empathize with their inabilities because I can see their level of disabilities. Possibly that some of them don't want to know, and some I ask, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I am dyslexic, but don't tell anyone." And I'm like, "No, I am dyslexic as well." And everyone goes, "Never." I'm like, I'm like, why? They said you can never be dyslexic. You're just too intelligent. I said, no. I was
intelligence have nothing to do with
then
it.
I would tell them all my story about Christina Pearson and everything and how she got me out, and I see they draw. It draws people back to me. They're like, they want to know, and they're like, feel more confident. Like I was talking to some students at one point. She was also making the same answer. Are you dyslexic by any chance? She goes, please don't tell anyone. I said, no, I was a student. I was in your position. Tell them. It gives you extra time. It gives you special learning. By the time she finished the placement, got me a box of chocolate to say thank you.
Oh, bless her.
Like,
Oh my goodness.
But on the other side of that, Obi, is often when you're listening to someone on Desert Island Discs or something, and they'll be talking about, you know, something extraordinary they've done, and we'll say, I bet they're dyslexic, and they invariably are, because their strengths you start to recognize the common, you know, sort of slightly different thinking, or, you know, so this is what we've just got to get across to the world, is that, you know, there's so much good stuff that comes with dyslexic thinking, and it's just the sort of negative side of the sort of education system that kind of makes us all feel that we're not good enough. And actually,
that's right.
You know, we've interviewed hundreds of people that are absolutely brilliant and passionate about what they do.
Yeah. And what I love about your story, Obi, what I love about your story is that you were championed. You were seen, you know, by, was it Christina? You were seen, and she saw your gift before you saw it. So she championed you, and then you embody that, and now you're doing it for others. And I love the two sides of being a champion and championing others. And Gina on the chat is saying, you know, teachers are heroes. And I think that teachers that are able to see that the child has the smarts, has the intellectual, but has to learn through different mediums, can do what Christina did for you and what you do for so many others that are struggling in any age, you know. I wonder, Lloyd, when you look at a role, there's a similarity there, as I'm thinking of, because you probably need to sort of find the story and find how to champion that character. What do you look in a role, and how do you sort of go about embodying that character and championing that story?
I think it goes down to kind of things that have influenced me, and films and characters that have moved me, and so I look at it like, what are my strongest attributes, or how can I contribute to, you know, this whole global industry of entertainment. And I think, you know, the things that resonate with me is I'm quite a visceral person, so I'm an emotional person, so I look for more complex roles, people who are very I guess, yeah, just more. When I say complex, I mean layered characters that are maybe not what they appear to seem to be. Like, I'm not what I appear to. You know, a lot of people would cast me as growing up as like more of a kind of Romeo, the boy next door. But that's not me at all. You know, I have a lot of the sort of darker worlds. You know, I'm more interested in that, and then I have obviously my comedic stuff that I like to do as well. But I think when it comes to a role, I just think it's like I auditioned for one yesterday, and it was about a man that was in a mental institution, and you know, I've spent a lot of time in those places because I've had certain family members live in those places, and I looked at the script once, and I just let it come out because it was already in me. It was already there, and I think sometimes that's what it is. Sometimes I want to just express what's already inside of me, and for other characters and people that I've had around my life. Like I think that the things that have touched me the most is where I've seen a character in a film and I go, oh, that's like my dad, or oh, that's like my uncle, or oh, that's. And I want to give that experience to other people, basically.
Yeah.
Your comedic side on your Instagram stories, Lloyd.
Sorry?
We love your comedic stories on the Instagram.
So good.
No, I have to. You got to balance it, and you know, life is about you got to laugh, haven't you? You got to laugh. You got to laugh, right? And that's always been the medicine.
You got to keep your chin up, haven't you?
Yeah, you got to. Yeah, that's always the best feeling. So yeah, appreciate that. Thank you.
That's right.
Keep them coming.
They will never stop.
So, Obi, what makes you go the extra miles for your client? What do you do in order to be able to see your clients in a moment of change or need some support, and how do you champion them? What's some of the things you're looking for?
Right. When you understand your blind spot, it shines a light in areas you don't know. And when the light shines in areas you don't know, it eases your vision and it increases your potential. You find out that you're acquiring a lot of things. Over the years, when I thought I accepted that, okay, I don't know nothing, because everyone says that, not realizing it was dyslexia. And right now, with what I know and what has been proven through the treatment and support I got from Christina and other lecturers and the tests, it gives you the belief that you can fly. And when you fly like a bird, you have that kind of bird eye view to empathize on people that don't have what you've got. And then it gives you an understanding of human feelings. Because yes, I was timid. Yes, I had friends who were like so good at the time. A lot of them are directors in oil companies and stuff. I was a science student. I was meant to do medicine and surgery. But I backed off because I was scared. I was only good at physics because most of it is physical. I mean, it's practical. Yeah. But when it comes to chemistry and all that, it was a bit of a challenge. Biology, I love it when it comes to practical. So, but coming into my role and my job, all those stuff and all those things I've missed, I see it in people's lives. And it helps me to empathize more and support people more. I am like kind of hungry to shine that light, and which is the reason I love what we're doing here. Because what we're doing is shining the light in dark areas and letting people know you can't be locked in darkness. There is actually the light in your hand.
Did we lose the last thought there? That was so good. That was so good. We're losing you a little bit there.
You can light your light. You can pass the light on to the next person.
Yes.
Well, what I've heard
connection issues. Am I back?
You're back. Say the last sentence you said. Say the last sentence you just said, because that was so good. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Yes, can you hear us?
I could hear you all, but my one was saying connection error. Sorry. So what was the last thing you had?
You were just talking about the light, and I want everybody that's watching today to just hear that last thought you had about the light. Try it again with the connection better.
Right. I was saying, like having been shown the light by Christina, it's like giving me that empowerment. And so also, that's what this platform and this forum is all about. We have that light. We can shine in dark areas.
Well, that was so good. I mean, he's going to join us in a second. I think that the world is having a bit of connectivity issue today, but that was so special and so moving what he was saying. Yeah. What I love talking to him today and before about him is that he had such a challenge, with the dyslexia, and he discovered, as we said in the beginning of the hour, that he was dyslexic much later in life, and some folks do go through that. But then he turned his life around, and he brought this magic and brightness in him to champion his community and clients and fellow dyslexic. And as you can hear on screen when we'll be back, he's just infectious with his commitment to shine that light on all of us. And that was so moving. That was so moving.
Yeah. Here he is.
He's back.
I'm
He's
back.
Yeah, he's back.
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Sorry.
That was
Yeah.
beautiful.
So I mean, like, we are the light. We've got light. We need to. It's like having a candle, and we are using our candles to light other people's candles, and giving them the light so that they can have that independence and freedom to walk in the dark path where they are scared.
Yeah.
So
that is
this
so
forum
true.
itself, it's a lighthouse where we get the light to shine to every other person, and that's why I do my job. I just bring light to people.
Yeah. As your face getting lights up from the light behind you. I mean, it's like cinematic. It's so good. And it's the definition, Obi. It's the definition of not the word champion as a trophy at the end of an effort, but as what embodies us seeing each other's and seeing the potential, and then shining that light, as you said so beautifully. He'll join again, but I just thought it was amazing. Let's jump back to you, Lloyd. As far as what I'm interested in is how do you take fear and risk as ingredients to into your creative process? What's some of the techniques or some of the thoughts do you have around that as you again try to bring these beautiful, complicated characters alive?
I think through my career, I would say that the fear and the risk part of playing this or doing a scene in a certain way, you know, sometimes you fall on your face and you go, oh no, that was not the way to play it, or no, but that's all about discovering parts of yourself, of which parts of yourself are, you know, you just, if you don't fall on your face, if you don't do things or get things in quotations wrong, then how are you going to know what feels right? So it's really important factor. There's absolutely no, like, that's why theater is so good, because you get to rehearse and you keep on failing for weeks and weeks and weeks until it suddenly sometimes comes together the night before press night, just before you're about to go on. You've been like, oh, this is terrible, and then it just falls into place. Sometimes differently, sometimes it's really easy and really smooth. But I think that's really important. And also I think fear in general, that is something that always holds everybody back in life. Doesn't matter if you're an actor, doesn't matter what you do in life. Fear is something that does try to get involved and block us. But the actual feeling of fear was, for me, the thing that liberated me was not being scared of it. So, you know, not being scared of it. Because what happens if you're scared of fear? You start to go, I don't want to be fearful. I don't want to feel scared. And then you're scared that you're scared of feeling fear.
Right,
so you're
totally.
in this vicious circle. And suddenly when you go, you know what? I'm fearful. I don't care. Bring it on. Give me as much fear as you can possibly give me. I'm still good. You know, and you have that kind of viewpoint where you are like, it doesn't have any power over you. The only reason it has any power over you is if you think it does.
But that was a real moment for you when you realised that, though, wasn't it? And you found that yourself, because I mean, you could say that to someone, but you have to feel that, don't you?
Oh yeah, I think yeah, that's the thing about all life, and even connect that to spirituality. You can talk about it till the cows come home, but you have to experience it. Yeah, and it was just one moment. I don't know when it was, but it was probably an audition that I had, because auditions are, you know, that's where fear usually is for most actors, because you're saying, hey, this is me presenting a character, do you like it, and then so you get the, you know, they're feeling feared, but they want you to do well. The whole room is fearful, and then you suddenly just go, I'm not scared of it, you know, I'm just not scared of it, I'm not gonna, and then that suddenly does change your thing then, whereby every time you feel fear, you see it as more of a sensation than something that you just don't want to feel, you know?
You said it really beautifully in the book. You said, be fearless to all your struggles and they won't hold any power over you. They become part of you and you'll get through it. You don't need validation from anyone. You don't need to be picked out to be great. You don't need to wait for someone to say you are a star. You start in your own life from today, which it was just beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean that you know what's really funny about that, reading that back, is that I think as an actor you get pulled in and out of that.
Right.
You get pulled in and out of it because what happens is what I said there absolutely is the truth in its essence. But there's definitely times where I've lost touch with that, where I've got where I'm doing a certain particular job, and then suddenly you're looking for that validation because you're back into ego again.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm so glad that you read that to me now, because when I know there's another question coming up, but that is the actual key, isn't it? It's about, and that's what dyslexia does as well. Is that you just honor yourself. You're happy as yourself. You love yourself, and we never get taught to do that. Obi talked about feeling stupid and not good enough, and so he's looking for validation from classmates, from people, from you know, same situation with me. I'm looking for validation from a director, from a writer, from this, but it's all, excuse my French, it's all bullshit. As long as you validate who you are, that's it. That's all the validation you need. And sometimes as you climb the ladder, you lose sight of that because you're getting closer to something you want to do. But as long as you come back down to that level and you realize, no, I validate myself. I heard the greatest quote yesterday from Dali Almodovar, the artist. He said, every time I wake up in the morning, I think, wow, how amazing to be Dali Almodovar. And if we all had that,
Yeah,
in the morning, it was, oh, how amazing to be whatever your name is.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a hard place to get to, because we're conditioned to not be that.
Right.
You know.
And yeah, I mean, I think, and that's, you bring another amazing dimension, which is, you know, you champion others, you are become a champion, but you're talking about championing yourself and building that conversation to be able to not run away from fear. And we hear it from so many dyslexic, but learn how to cope with it, how to embrace it, how to love it, and how to use its power to give you that championing feeling, you know, as I know you do so much in your work. We have a great question from our good friend Kwana, and she says, fear and excitement are quite similar, and heart racing and sweat palming and all that kind of stuff. How do you see the difference, Lloyd, between fear and excitement? Because I think it's really, that's what we're talking about. How do you switch fear to excitement, right? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
I actually, I know that's true. People would say that the feelings are very similar, and they are. And people are able to tell themselves when they're fearful, oh, no, actually it's excitement. I can't do that. I know when it's fear for me. I know the difference between fear and excitement. So I can't try and trick my brain. So what I do is I just say, like, if it's fear, I say, give me as much fear as you can possibly give me. I ask if I know. Oh, sorry, it's repeating back to me. So I would just, and so try and trick my brain. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. It's a little connectivity issues, but
I wouldn't differentiate the two. You know what I mean? For me, that just doesn't work for me. So my thing is, if you want to conquer fear, you go into it as much as you can go into it, and then when you go towards it, for instance, if this is fear here, and this is you, and fear is you're trying to run away from it, it's going to keep following you and following you and following and following you until it gets you, and then you're like, oh, I don't want to feel like this. But if this is fear and this is you, and you go towards it, it has no power over you anymore. It falls away.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. Obi, can you hear us, Obi?
Yeah, I can.
Oh, good. So, Obi, welcome back.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Cool. Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. So, Obi, I wanted to ask you a question. Tell us about a time when you took a chance on something. I know you've done that so many times in your life, and you're pretty brilliant in it. So tell us about a time when you took a chance on something, and you kind of, as Lloyd was talking about, you faced your fears. Was there a moment that stands out for you? Did you freeze a little bit there?
Yeah, I think you're frozen.
I have had several of those moments, and funny enough, yeah, because I worked as a locum. That means I need to move around jobs. I was a contractor, and coming to take. Let me give my latest one. This very current role that I was explaining to you on the new role, I just took on. And I was a bit worried, right? And I didn't want to take the chance because I felt I had other mechanisms I've put in place, other alternatives I've put in place. And I decided to go for this position, which was middle management position. First, I was scared. I'm not going to lie, that I wouldn't get it. I was panicking, and again, I was conscious because I'm dealing with people of high intelligence. And a friend of mine said, "What have you got to lose?" The most they would tell you is no. Right. She's another social worker who actually know about my dyslexia because she's known me prior to that. So when I came out to say I was dyslexic, she goes, "I knew that from the beginning. Something was wrong with you." So she goes, "What have you got to lose?" So I did go for it. I didn't think of anything about it because I felt the interview was so intense and they were asking me too many questions. I didn't.
Oh, cliffhanger.
Technology's not on our side this week, is it?
No, we're just rolling with the punches. But I think that again, it's like part of overcoming is really about embracing it, as you said, Lloyd. And Michelle was asking, and let's maybe jump into that, is how do we help, as a teacher working with dyslexic students, the teacher can say, you're amazing and you are great and you're going to have all this potential, but how does the student feels it? Because so often it sounds like you don't know that, right? Because you haven't got maybe to a place where you're embracing that fear, you're embracing that feeling. So how do you kind of help that student believe themselves? Lloyd, any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I had a real issue with that, to be honest. And I used to get told all the time, "Oh, you're great at this, or you're great at that, and this, that, and the other." And it took me years for me to actually find that truth for myself, for my own self-belief. And I think actually what I realized is that kind of stuff goes back to when you're like 3-4 years old, because it can come from schooling, it can come from parenting, it can come from, because if you're for instance, here's a little story that was quite fascinating to me to look back into. When Obi talked about not being good enough, I had a similar feeling, and it took me back to when I was like 4 years old. I was with my cousin, and my cousin could play the piano, very proficient on the piano at 4 years old. And all the family was there, and they were like loving him and congratulating him, and he was like the star of the family. And I went on the piano, and I couldn't do anything. And I felt the room. You know what I mean? As a 4-year-old kid, I felt the room. And I knew in that moment I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough. And so that feeling, being born, suddenly you're always trying to prove that you're good enough for other people. And everything that you do. You do it for your mother, you do it for your sister, you do it for your friends, you do it for because you just, unfortunately, this is most people's experience, I guess, as well at some point, is that you don't realize you were always good enough. You just weren't good at the piano that moment. That's not you. Yeah. That's not what you're good at. Like, and so my idea of that is that you have to go back and see where the story developed for yourself. See where you felt you weren't good enough, where you felt you weren't, and look at the story and then realize what it was. It was a story that you've been carrying for ages. Now it's time to write that story down on a piece of paper and put a light to it. It's done now. You know, you've always been good enough.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I think, Obi, you were talking about shining the light, and I think to the questions about how do we sort of show young persons with dyslexia that it's just one part of them, but it's not who they are. It's just a component of who we are, right? It's not everything, but we get so embodied in that, and you know, really seeing them. I know from my life, both with my mother and my family when I was younger, and my life partner and my work partner, is that it's really when you look at somebody and you see the light, eventually they will feel it too, you know, and it takes a little bit of time, but it's just like really seeing where that person will shine. And I know, Lloyd, you talked about in some of our conversations in the past about you having this video when you were a little kid about acting, and your family really seeing that as your magic and your gift, and then be able to sort of support that. And I think it's so important, because to your point as well, is like when people see you, teachers, students, community, see you if you're less than, then that's a story you have to overcome, right? It's that label that's given to us, that's then you wrestle for a good part of your young adults and sometimes even further in life to sort of try to overcome that. But it's not just a narrative, right? It's just a narrative. So it's challenging, but so interesting. So many different ways of doing that, you know. Yeah.
And those narratives, they're supposed to be uncovered when they're supposed to be uncovered. There's not a timeline for that. You know, some people, some person might have found what I found true to myself 10 years before that, but that just wasn't my time to find that out about myself. So I think you really have to just be patient with yourself and allow yourself to be who you are in that moment, and you know, you'll keep growing, you'll keep uncovering things. And the thing about going back to fears is really interesting, because fears, like, your mind will always come up with something to fear. That's the job of it. That's the whole, like, it's always, you know, there's like
fight or flight, right? Yeah.
But you know, but that's the journey, man. And I think if you can just approach it more with a kind of fun curiosity rather than what's wrong with me, that is a good base to look at things.
And everyone takes their own time as well. We don't need to rush it. I think the trouble is we live in this instant world where you have to do this, that, and the other by a certain amount of time. And I think, Kathy, we always talk about people get there at their own pace. And, you know, sometimes you might have to do 3 different courses to kind of find the thing that, oh, actually, I should have done that all along, or maybe that's going to feed that bit of you. And so it's all part of your journey, and to just enjoy and get the best out of things, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's all, you know, it's all in your own time.
Yeah.
There's no rush.
There is no rush. Slow down.
We say it all the time.
Yeah. You, by the time you're 18, you don't have to have worked it out.
Yeah, exactly. So all these guys doing their GCSEs from home or wherever you are, and you're struggling, it's not the end of the world. There is a life. In fact, there's a bigger life after school. It's like you have no idea when you find out what you're really good at, and you finish your education, the education that you have to do, and then you get involved in the education that you want to do, that you are passionate about, and then you will fly. That's sorry. Went on one.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and in the chat, I'm seeing that people are really excited about the idea that you mentioned about, you know, everybody has their own time. And when we start to compare it to others, then sometimes we tend to feel like we're behind. And I think that's another level to the construct, right? So you're exactly where you need to be, where you are. The question is, are you with you, right? Are you with yourself at this moment? Are you sort of fear and excitement and discomfort and shame creates that split? And I think back to that question is like, be able to have your community see where you are allows you to be more grounded and accept that quicker, at least start the dialogue to sort of embrace that inner dyslexic person of you that really starts the conversation, right? Not running away, coming together, as you said earlier, Lloyd. So, you know, we're almost at our time for the salon. So maybe as we close and, you know, hopefully Obi can join us just for the last few minutes. But so, you know, we're talking a lot about this sort of empathy, right? And how does empathy help all of us as persons, right? So as coaches, as championing each other, championing ourselves, where does empathy comes in your work, Lloyd, and how do you use that to your advantage to support that conversation or that inner person, the inner child that we're talking about?
I think I've actually spent this January doing a lot of kind of that work. And I think empathy in terms of inner child work, it's like looking after that child like we're all just children, aren't we, really? We just grown older, we look older, we do this, but we're actually, you know what I mean, when we came into the world, we were just these perfect beings of divinity, and then the world construct and everything else then gets put onto us, and you know, we have different thoughts and different things, and then I think empathy is about going back to that child and about already seeing, like, you were always worthy, you were always good enough, you came here with a purpose, you came here to do something, but also you came here just to be you. Don't worry about anything that you're doing as well. Just be you. You just allow yourself to be you, and understand that, like, some things that you are problematic in life, that's all part of the uncovering of the mystery of life as well. And it's all I just think when you look after the inner child and just like honor yourself, as in love yourself from that point where, if you were doing a visualization and a meditation, you'd see yourself as a child. You'd go to that place, and what you are saying back to that child is like, I'm with you now, I'm with you, and that child's going to look after you as well because you're looking after it. So that's the kind of things that I'd be looking at if I was looking to derive and cultivate more self-love, you know.
Absolutely. Obi, you're back. You can hear us, Obi?
Obi
Obi-Wan Kenobi, are you with us?
Can you hear us? All right, maybe we'll get a few. Oh yeah, there he is. We can't hear you. Unfortunately. We can hear you, Obi. Oh, too bad. I know that everybody would love to hear his final thoughts. Maybe we'll see if we can fix the audio in the last 2 minutes of our event today. So, you know, what would you say to Lloyd? What would you say to your inner child today, if you could, right back then? I mean, what would be the sort of advice that you would give your inner child from a dyslexia perspective? You know, to sort of ease that the early years of challenges and trials and tribulations. Any final thoughts?
I would probably say, oh, that's a really good question. It's a really good. If I was gonna, because let's be honest, like it's a hard one to say, because all the pain and the suffering ends up helping you in the end. So you don't want to say to your inner child, like, oh, you never had to worry, or you never had to do anything. It's quite a complicated, complex question. But what I would say is just know that you are enough, no matter what. You're enough, and that's it. You're enough. Doesn't matter if you're doing this or doing that. Doesn't matter if you win this or you win that. Doesn't matter if you're doing nothing. Doesn't matter if you're doing everything that you can do.
Right.
Take it all away. Just you, as just you being here. That's enough. And and then also knowing that that's enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then life becomes a bit more fun. You don't take it so seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm enough for myself. No one gets taught to feel that, because that's just not the construct we live in. We're we're a go-getter, which is all good. go and achieve, of course, but don't think that that's where your worth's at. Your worth was always before that.
Right.
Yeah, and enjoy your achievements as well, isn't it? Sometimes you kind of you do the thing and then you do the next thing, and you kind of always pushing and actually just not having the time to kind of enjoy what you've done.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we get swept away with that as well. Yeah, we definitely. I think enjoy your achievements, enjoy what you do in life, but more before that, enjoy you. You know, like they asked Bob Marley. They told him. They said to Bob Marley, like, you got all this money, you won all this awards, you're a rich man. He said, that make me rich? My richness is life. That really life is living is rich.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, that's such empowering and inspiring words that I'll definitely take, you know, and the rest of our audience, and find other ways to champion each other and champion ourselves.
Thank you to our guests. I hope you enjoy this episode of Dyslexic Design Thinking. We have a lot more great content coming, so make sure to like and subscribe. Dyslexic Design Thinking is produced by Gershoni Creative, created in partnership with Amazing Dyslexics.